Fresh updates are rolling in right now about the next big winter storm brewing off the eastern seaboard. And folks, this one's shaping up to be a real beast. This weather system is going to drag down a massive wave of frigid air while simultaneously sucking up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic. Wherever this thing decides to park itself along the coast, we're looking at some serious snowfall. We're talking anywhere from 12 to 24 inches, or even more in the areas that get hammered the hardest. Let me break down the latest predictions. What might happen, the bone-chilling temps that'll follow, and some crucial things we really need to keep our eyes on. But first, before we jump into what's coming, we can't forget about the folks still suffering from the current mess. More than 690,000 households are sitting in the dark as temperatures dive into seriously dangerous levels. Tennessee's taking the biggest hit with 237,000 customers without electricity. Mississippi's got 130,000 in the same boat. Louisiana is dealing with 115,000 affected homes. Texas still has 47,000 people in the dark. Kentucky's at 38,000. West Virginia at 12,000. Virginia at 16,000. North Carolina at 13,000. South Carolina at 30,000. And Georgia at 21,000. The numbers have gotten better as the days gone on. But here's the problem: these absolutely brutal temps are crashing back down tonight, making things extremely sketchy for anyone without heat. The images coming out of northern Mississippi are jaw-dropping for all the wrong reasons. Footage from Oxford shows the insane ice buildup that buried the area. Trees and power lines are caked in what looks like an inch or more of solid ice, seriously nasty stuff. The sheer weight is bending branches all the way to the ground and snapping limbs left and right. Several states across the South are dealing with similar disaster scenes right now, by the way. If you want specific weather forecasts for where you live, drop it in the comments and I'll get back to you when I can. Also, if you dig the video and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Alright, moving on. For tonight's immediate concerns, we've got potential freezing fog across parts of north and central Texas through Tuesday morning. Then another round Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. This just adds another layer of trouble on top of the ice and cold that's already there. Seriously, stay home if you can. Now let me dive into what's cooking for this weekend. Because the signs are getting clearer and more worrying with every model update. Starting Saturday morning, we're beginning to see the possibility of at least minor trouble developing. By Saturday evening, this grows into a major threat stretching from Georgia up through the Carolinas and into Virginia. If you're anywhere from Atlanta to Columbia to Greenville to Raleigh to Richmond, you really need to be paying attention because this is where the heaviest snow could dump. The Canadian model is showing this system, potentially tracking a bit further south along the shoreline, which would bring even bigger problems to the southeast. At this range, we can't rule anything out. As we move through Sunday morning into Sunday evening, the storm hugs the Carolinas before heading offshore. In this scenario, the chances of it affecting the Northeast go down, meaning the biggest snow threat would focus on the stretch from Georgia through Virginia and possibly the Delmarva Peninsula and southern New Jersey. Let me explain what's driving this whole pattern, because understanding the atmospheric mechanics helps you get why forecasters are feeling more confident. The Arctic Oscillation shows cold air already settled in with another reinforcing blast coming as we approach next weekend. The North Atlantic Oscillation indicates we're going to stay in a continuous blocking pattern, staying negative. This is huge because it keeps all that cold air trapped over the central southern nights, southern and eastern United States, instead of letting it escape out to sea. Here's where things get really fascinating. As this storm system moves toward the northeast, if that blocking pattern locks in a bit earlier, it could keep the storm hugging the coast longer and bring much bigger impacts. Think snow measured in feet, not inches. The probability maps show growing chances for more than 1 inch of snow right along that east coast corridor from Saturday into Sunday. That 50% probability zone is spreading out along the coastal plain. If high pressure can build in a little sooner to the west, all of this could ride straight up the coastline. And that's exactly what the Canadian model is hinting at as a real possibility. The dynamics of this system are pretty impressive, honestly. Remember, low pressure spins counterclockwise, so it's going to fling all that Gulf and Atlantic moisture straight into the cold air flooding down from the north. By Friday morning, we could see precipitation starting to flip over to snow across Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the mid-Atlantic. Then, the strengthening low pressure drags down even colder air Saturday brings. Heavier bands of snow as the system gets its act together. By Sunday, we're potentially looking at explosive cyclogenesis, that's meteorology speak for rapid intensification, with the low possibly dropping to 953 millibars. That's essentially hurricane-level strength. And that kind of rapid strengthening creates those heavy snow bands that can dump 1 to 2 inches per hour. Yeah, that's a lot. So how much snow are we actually talking about? The European model's deterministic run is showing over a foot pushing into Georgia, spreading through South Carolina and North Carolina into Virginia, while just barely missing Delmarva. That's a substantial snow event for the Southeast, the kind of storm that doesn't roll through very often. The GFS is showing something similar, but with even more snow and some spots 2 feet showing up in the heaviest bands with better coverage across Delmarva and into New Jersey in that model. The Canadian model sees this forming sooner and tracking right along the coast, which would shift impacts significantly. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something. I'm not saying any of these individual model runs is the guaranteed forecast. We're looking at different possibilities in terms of track and intensity. But what I am saying is we can't just dismiss the Canadian model because it's not the Euro or GFS. Remember Hurricane Milton. The Canadian actually outperformed both the European and GFS on that storm and ended up being right. At 4 to 6 days out, we need to consider every angle and every possibility. When models disagree, following the trend is always your best bet. Looking at the ensemble guidance for the next week. The European ensemble is clustering impacts right along the Carolinas toward the coast. The Canadian ensemble is showing potential for a more direct hit with 2 feet of snow in some scenarios. What we're seeing consistently across most ensemble members is that this system is going to slam somewhere in the southeast, and wherever it hits, it's going to hit hard. Some of the individual ensemble members are showing outcomes that would be absolutely catastrophic if they actually happened. I'm honestly relieved those extreme scenarios aren't trending everywhere because the impacts would be severe. But the bulk of the ensemble guidance shows a significant hit along the mid-Atlantic, skating right up the coast with 1 to 2 feet, possible in the bullseye zone. The cold temperatures following this system are absolutely punishing. There's a moderate risk for dangerous cold from February 2nd through the 3rd across the entire southeast and mid-Atlantic, reaching all the way down into Florida. Saturday morning brings freezing temperatures across a huge chunk of the south. Wind chills of -5 degrees Fahrenheit reach into Mississippi and spread across multiple states throughout the eastern half of the country. We're talking -20 to -30 degrees Fahrenheit wind chills affecting the northern states. Your afternoon high temperatures on Saturday stay below freezing across most of this blue shaded area. Not exactly picnic weather. Sunday brings those freezing temperatures crashing back down, again with strong wind chills sticking around. Monday actually looks like the coldest day, pushing furthest down the Florida peninsula. Tuesday continues the pattern with a strong cold blast pivoting right along the east coast. Think about what this all means. We've got hundreds of thousands still without power from the current storm. Temperatures are dangerous and staying that way. Now another significant winter storm is developing that could dump additional heavy snow and ice on some of the same areas still trying to recover. And behind that system, the cold doesn't let up, it actually reinforces. Not great. This setup carries echoes of that legendary winter of 2013-2014. When the polar vortex repeatedly collapsed and sent wave after wave of Arctic air into the eastern United States. That winter featured back-to-back ice storms for Atlanta, multiple nor'easters for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and extended stretches of bitter cold. The pattern we're locked into right now has similar vibes. For those in the Southeast who've been waiting for a real snowstorm, this might be your moment. The track of this system is everything. If it stays suppressed and rides the coast, the Southeast sees major snow. If it pulls too far offshore, impacts go down. If it comes further north and west, the mid-Atlantic and Northeast become ground zero. The key things to watch over the next several days are the timing of when that blocking pattern locks in, the exact position of the surface low as it develops in the Gulf, and how the cold air damming sets up across the Carolinas and Virginia. All of these factors will determine who gets buried in snow and who just gets a close call.